Welcome to Seafan Sports, a sports show that is dedicated to Seattle sports fans. My name is Dave, this is Kevin, and this is Seahawks Weekly. Before we jump into Seahawks Weekly this week, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you turn on your notification bells, give thumbs up, give thumbs down if you got to, and make sure that you leave comments. Man, we've had some great comments. We will try to get back to you as quickly as possible. And speaking as quickly as possible, our podcasts have been delayed this week. I want to apologize. I have been extremely ill. I'm on the other side of it, I hope.
COVID.
And it may be COVID related.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
There we go. We are on the other side. But what I did get to watch this weekend, Kevin, was 4 incredible games of football. And I think this was probably the best weekend of football that I've ever watched where I haven't watched my Seahawks play. Kevin, how about you? Did you feel the same way?
You know, I watched a little bit of the games. I didn't really watch a ton of it. You know, I'm a diehard Seahawks fan. It's just not the same without our team in there. There was, I watched second halves of a couple of the games and absolutely phenomenal quarterback play all the way around this weekend. I thought the defensive pass rush was phenomenal all the way around this weekend. And hats off to the NFC West, man. Look at that. 2 teams in the play. I mean, still in. So,
yeah. And where do you want? Who do you want? Which one of our rivals do you want to see be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl?
It's gonna be hard.
I'm leaning towards man, I tell you what, that is a Sophie's choice right there. Make sure that you guys drop in the comments who you want from the NFC West, whether it be San Francisco or the Rams to represent us in the NFC. But man, I tell you what, that's like getting somebody asking if you want to get hit in the stomach or hit in the face. One of the, it's like neither one of them's a good choice, but it is what it is.
Both of those defenses are just outstanding. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, they are absolutely. I tell you, I watched a lot of good quarterback play. I watched Joe Burrow get sacked 9 times and still lead his team to victory. One of the things that we're going to talk about here, in fact, let's jump right into that, is kind of our needs for this upcoming season. And both you and I are really leaning towards the trenches for both sides of the ball, whether that be left tackle and center or center and left tackle in that order. Kevin leans more towards he wants a center first, and then we can deal with the left tackle. And I'm like, I want a left tackle, and we can deal with the center.
And, I really would like some younger guys. I mean, there's a few guys out there that I think they're outstanding. But, Dwayne's been outstanding his entire career, but he's just getting old. And I just think that we need some young guys out there. And there's a couple of them out there that are just studs that are free agents this year. So I'd like to see us pick up a couple. So
are you a couple as in tackles or a couple? I mean, what are you looking at?
I would like to have a center and an offense and a left tackle. I mean, that would be my ultimate goal if I could have both. Yes.
Is there a center that you feel that you think we should concentrate on?
Well, Brian Allen's out there with the Rams center, twofold. One, he's with the Rams, and if we could get him, that would be even better. The other guy is Bradley Bozeman with Baltimore. I just think both of those guys could be. In fact, Brian Allen's 26, Bozeman's 27. Outstanding centers on both of them. Then you got, Teron Armstead, 31 years old, a little old, but Orlando Brown, 26 years old. So
that's where I'd rather see us. If we're going to sink a lot of money into that left tackle position, I would much rather see us go younger than older.
Yeah.
Kevin, our third burning question last week was, what are they going to do about Ken Norton Jr.?
Well, he's gone. So.
Yeah, that burning question was answered pretty damn. It's like Pete and John was like, let's see what Dave and Kevin said. Yeah, they're not fond of Ken Norton, so let's jettison that guy. Kevin, who do you think they're going to be bringing in as far as a defensive coordinator? Well, or do you think that we should elevate somebody else?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk out there. I mean, obviously Clint Hurt is with the Seahawks already, just done an outstanding job with the defensive line. I don't know if the scheme was him or Ken Norton Jr., but all those, when you're dropping back your defensive ends to cover in the backfield, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if it was him or Ken Norton Jr., but I didn't like that side of it. Now, there's also been talk of Gus Bradley, which I don't know if that's going to happen, if they're going to bring back somebody that's already been on the team. But, Ed Donatell's been mentioned, who was the defensive coordinator with Denver Bronco, Sean Desai, who with Chicago. I thought both of those guys have experience, and I think they could be good fits. We also heard about Joe Witt Jr. from Dallas. I just don't. I see Seattle going towards either Ed or Sean for the fact that they have experience. Now, if I had my choice, I like them both, but I really think Ed has the advantage because he's been around. He's worked with Pete in the past. They had the number 8 total defense last year, 8 in pass defense, 15 in run defense, number 3 in scoring defense. So,
and not only that, Kevin, but they lost Von Miller, towards the end of the season.
Yeah. And Sean didn't do bad. I mean, they had number 3 pass defense, which they had number 22 scoring defense and number 23 run defense. But they had some guys that were injured.
Oh. They hardly had anybody there all season long. I think Roquan Smith was the only guy that I saw that played the entire season there. And you just can't do that in today's NFL.
No, and they did not blitz a ton either. So they were not getting as much pressure. But boy, that back end where Sean specializes in did an outstanding job. And I just think that number 3 in pass defense, that is what Seattle's lacking. And Ed did number 8, so I would like both of those guys. Now Joe did a phenomenal job in the back end, Joe Witt Jr. With Dallas last year, and boy, they did number 1 in takeaways.
But you say that they're number 1 take, and I agree with you that during the regular season. They looked good, but I tell you what, in that playoff game against the 49ers, they did not show up. And to me, that is every bit as important as the regular season is what you can do in the playoffs, because unfortunately we've been able to get to the playoffs except for this last season, but we've been one and done for quite a few years, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a defensive coordinator that's going to be able to come in and be able to change the culture that we have in that defense and bring us back to, a top 10, top 15 defense in the league. And I think that would bring us back to the glory that we've had past.
Yeah, I mean, we're number 31 in pass defense, number 17 in run defense. We were number 12 in scoring defense, but 31 in pass defense. That is just unacceptable.
I completely agree. And that's going to have to change in this upcoming season. Whether, we've got, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, well, the glaring question is Russell right now. And I completely agree with you. But right now, the most glaring question is, how are we going to address the defensive coordinator? And then we can move forward. We don't even have to pay a roster bonus for Russell until what? March 21st.
Right.
So, I mean, we have time to mull that over, and April is a long ways away. Right now, it's getting the right defensive coordinator and getting in the type of system that he's going to want to run, and having that all ironed out before we look at what type of defensive personnel we're going to bring in. That seems like pretty tall order, but that pretty much wraps up everything I was going to say. Kevin, anything else for him this week?
Well, I think that we need to talk about real quick, some of the hatred towards Pete and John and everything that, we've been hearing, and everybody's like, fire him, fire him, fire him, and you and I have had this conversation in the past. And in fact, I think today is the day he said he's stepping down, Sean Payton with New Orleans. I mean, prime example. I mean, look at the mess that he's got down there. And no wonder why he's stepping away. And we don't have that here. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but
I absolutely do. And thank you, Kevin. You absolutely reminded me of that. One of the things that I have been impressed about is the responsibility that our team and mostly Pete and John have as far as having a product on the field that does not jeopardize the future as much as other teams. Now, the Rams are in the NFC Championship, but you know what? That bill will come due.
Oh, yeah.
The bill that they have rung up right now will come due. They don't have a draft pick forever in the first round. San Francisco, again, doesn't have a draft pick in the first round. They have made gambles and they have paid off well. However, the future does not look so bright for the 49ers or the Rams. Excuse me. And the Saints are another team. The Saints have buried themselves a hole so deep that their guru, their offensive guru that they had, took a look at it and said, you know what? I think I'd rather be in the broadcast booth than try to get this team with that menagerie of quarterbacks, that high-priced, always injured wide receivers, and just walk away from that situation. And we don't have that up here. We are generally in the playoffs every year. We have a physical responsibility in the fact that we have not mortgaged our future. Yes, a lot of people say that we made a bad trade for Jamal Adams. That, I think, is still to be written.
Yeah.
The jury is still out on that. Let him get in for a year with a new defensive coordinator that may be able to use him the correct way. And then,
because neither one of us thought that he was used correctly this year at all.
Nope. And then we can have the jury, decide whether or not that was an adequate trade.
Right.
He may turn around and be a defensive MVP next year. We can't talk about that.
Nope.
The simple fact is that the fire Pete and fire John Schneider chance. All you have to do is look at the situation in New Orleans and what Sean Payton walked away from and say, yeah, we're sitting pretty good here. And I think Jody Allen realizes that, and that's why the culture in Seattle is so much better than those situations. And that's all I have to say on it, Kevin. You have anything to add?
No, I don't. Just go Hawks, man.
All right, you guys, everybody have a great weekend. Make sure you leave those comments below. Go Hawks.